Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. I was working at a chain salon in the US making minimum wage plus tips. Our pay was on a sliding scale. The more services you added, the higher your hourly rate. In August 2022, we started offering $15 haircuts for the back-to-school season. It seemed counterintuitive to offer a big discount when everyone needs a haircut, but that's corporate logic for you. To promote this sale, we had to hang a massive banner off the roof of our store. Picture this, a 12-foot long, 4-foot wide monstrosity that we had to put up twice a day using a rickety step stool on uneven sidewalk. Our manager, Karen, insisted we do it morning and night in case someone steals the banner, because obviously someone would want to swipe a banner with our logo advertising $15 haircuts. One morning, as I was precariously balancing on the step stool, my coworker Jess was holding it steady. Jess was known for being a total brown noser and the Salon Gossip. "Can you believe we have to do this twice a day?" I grumbled. "I know, right? It's so annoying," Jess replied, rolling her eyes. Despite the hassle, I was looking forward to my next paycheck. I had a high service dollar per hour, which should have meant a bigger hourly pay. But when I got my check, I was shocked. That $10 haircut discount? It was coming out of our final service dollar calculations, and we ended up making significantly less than usual. I'd been there for years, and this was the smallest back-to-school paycheck I'd ever seen. The next day, I was fuming as Jess and I set up the banner again. As I climbed the step stool, a petty idea popped into my head. "Well, at least this is the last time I'll ever have to do this," I said casually. Jess's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" I leaned in close, lowering my voice. "Can you keep a secret? I mean it, Jess. You can't tell anyone, especially not Karen." Jess nodded eagerly, practically salivating for the gossip. "I've accepted a job at another salon. Better schedule, higher commission, and $6 more an hour. I was going to put in my 2 weeks, but they need me to start sooner. I'm working the weekend and then I'm out." Jess's jaw dropped. "But that'll leave us so understaffed for the back-to-school rush," I shrugged, trying to look nonchalant. "I know, but this opportunity is too good to pass up. Remember, not a word to anyone, okay?" Of course, Jess assured me, but I could practically see the wheels turning in her head. I left early that day, and sure enough, on my next shift, Karen called me into her office. "So I heard a rumor that you're leaving us for another salon," Karen said, trying to sound casual. I feigned surprise. "Oh? Well, I did get a better offer elsewhere, but I really love working here. If you could match it, I'd be happy to stay." Karen's expression changed from concern to relief. "Let me call our district leader about a raise. In the meantime, how about a set schedule starting next week?" I couldn't believe it worked. I had been working closing shifts until 10 p.m. some days and opening at 8 a.m. the next, making childcare a nightmare. As I was consistently ranked number 2 in sales for our store in the district leader approved the raise. I ended up staying there for another 5 years, which means I got an additional $49,000 in pay for accidentally telling the Salon Gossip my secret. Plus, I started earning 22% commission on $600 to $1,200 a week in product sales. But that's not all. I started printing out my service sales slip from the previous day at the beginning of every shift. When payroll readjusted the paychecks to include coupons, I could dispute it with my records. Payroll claimed there was nothing they could do, but I kept raising the issue periodically. Fast forward to September 2027. They brought back the $15 haircut sale, and I finally quit. A few months later, I learned that an employee in another state had filed a class action lawsuit. I joined and provided the lawyer with 5 years' worth of documentation, emails from corporate and payroll, everything. They had to go through all of my paychecks and compensate me for the difference. This included adding the free haircuts from our reward program and discounted haircuts at their full amount, increasing the service dollar. Those $0.25 here and $0.40 there added up. Despite the settlement being split among many employees, I received $12,000 from that, on top of my adjusted pay, which was around half the settlement amount. In the end, my little accident not only secured me a raise, but also led to a substantial payout. Sometimes a loose lip can sink a ship, or in this case, fill your bank account. The next one is an entitled people story. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to end up in a legal battle with my neighbors, but life has a funny way of surprising you sometimes. My name's Mike, and I've lived in the same house on the outskirts of town for over 20 years now. It's a nice little place with about an acre of land. Nothing fancy, but it's home. For most of those years, things were pretty quiet around here. Sure, there was the occasional dispute over someone's dog barking too much or kids playing their music too loud, but nothing major. That all changed when a new housing development went up on the vacant lot next door about 5 years ago. At first, I was actually kind of excited about it. The old empty field had been an eyesore, always overgrown with weeds. And hey, some new neighbors might liven things up a bit, right? Boy, was I in for a rude awakening. The problem started almost as soon as people began moving into the new houses. Apparently, the developer had seriously underestimated the amount of parking that would be needed. There were way more cars than the narrow streets and small driveways could accommodate. It didn't take long before people started parking along the main road leading into the neighborhood, which happened to run right past my property. I tried not to let it bother me too much at first. Live and let live, you know. But then more and more cars kept showing up. Pretty soon, the entire stretch of road in front of my house was lined with parked cars day and night. It made it a real pain to get in and out of my own driveway sometimes. That's when I decided to reach out to the new homeowners association that had formed in the development. I figured maybe we could work together to come up with a solution that would work for everyone. Man, was that ever a mistake. The homeowner association president, Karen, yeah, I know, you can't make this stuff up, acted like I was some kind of unreasonable jerk for even bringing it up. She kept insisting that the road was public property and that I had no right to complain about people parking there. When I pointed out that the constant traffic and parked cars were damaging my lawn, she just rolled her eyes and said that was my problem to deal with. Things only got worse from there. More and more people started using the shoulder of the road to park, which meant they were essentially parking on my property at that point. I put up some no parking signs, but they were ignored. I even caught a few people pulling onto my actual lawn to park when the road got too crowded. I tried talking to individual homeowners, putting notes on windshields, everything I could think of. But it was like shouting into the wind. Nobody seemed to care that they were basically treating my property like their own personal parking lot. The final straw came about 6 months ago. I came home from work one day to find a crew out there actually paving over part of my front lawn. They had extended the shoulder of the road by a good 10 feet, eating up a big chunk of my property in the process. When I demanded to know what the hell was going on, the foreman handed me a letter from the homeowner association. Apparently, they had petitioned the city to claim that strip of land through eminent domain, arguing it was needed for public use as additional parking for the neighborhood. The kicker? They hadn't even bothered to notify me it was happening. The first I heard about it was watching bulldozers tear up my own damn lawn. I was livid. This was my property that I'd owned and paid taxes on for 2 decades. How could they just take it like that without so much as a buy your leave? But it got even worse. A few weeks later, I noticed that parking meters had been installed along the newly paved area. The homeowner association was actually charging people to park on what used to be my land. That was it. I'd had enough of playing nice. It was time to get a lawyer involved and fight back. Luckily, I have a cousin who practices real estate law in the next county over. When I told him what was going on, he was shocked. Apparently what the homeowner association and city had done wasn't just unfair, it was straight up illegal. See, there are very specific rules about how eminent domain can be used. It has to be for a genuine public use, like building a road or a school. Using it to create parking for a private neighborhood didn't qualify. Plus, even in cases where eminent domain is valid, the property owner has to be notified and fairly compensated. I hadn't received so much as a penny for the land they took. My cousin helped me file a lawsuit against both the homeowner association and the city for unlawful taking of property. Let me tell you, Karen and her cronies were not happy when they got served with those papers. Suddenly they wanted to work things out amicably. But it was way too late for that. I was out for blood at this point. The case dragged on for months. The homeowner association tried every dirty trick in the book to delay things and run up my legal bills. They even tried to argue that I had abandoned the property by not actively using that strip of land, as if my lawn was supposed to be some kind of bustling business or something. But in the end, justice prevailed. The judge saw right through their BS and ruled entirely in my favor. Not only did I get my land back, but the homeowner association and city were ordered to pay for restoring it to its original condition. Plus, I was awarded a pretty hefty sum for the illegal use of my property and all the hassle I'd been put through. You should have seen Karen's face when the verdict was read. I thought she was going to explode right there in the courtroom. It was almost worth all the headache just to see that. The icing on the cake? The judge also invalidated a bunch of the homeowner association's other shady practices that came to light during the trial. Turns out they'd been playing fast and loose with a lot of rules, not just when it came to my property. In the end, the whole board ended up getting voted out and replaced. These days, things are finally back to normal around here. My lawn is restored, the illegal parking lot is gone, and I even planted some nice trees along the property line just to make the boundary extra clear. The new homeowner association board is much more reasonable to deal with, and they've actually worked with the city to create some proper parking areas within the development. I'd like to say I've totally forgiven and forgotten, but I'd be lying. Every now and then I see Karen giving me the stink eye when she drives past my house. But you know what? I just smile and wave. After all, I've got my property, my peace of mind, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the little guy really can win. The next one is a petty revenge story. So one of my good friends married the worst person. Background: the first time I met her, she came off as very arrogant. My friend invited the new girl he was dating to trivia night at the pub we regular at. She argued every answer the group agreed on. Normally, our group finishes trivia night in the top 3. There was at the time 7 of us, and our combined knowledge pretty much covered all categories. This night was special for us because we were on a 4-week win streak, about to break the old one. The pub had a rule that you broke the streak, you tab was covered for the whole night, and 4 was the streak for the last 3 years. My friend and his new GF missed the first 2 of the 3 rounds. We were in first place by only 3 points. How trivia worked at the bar was they had 3 rounds of 30 questions that were displayed on the TV for 1 minute. No cell phone rule. The staff monitored. If they saw a cell phone at the table, they grabbed your sheet and you were out for that round, even if it was off and just sitting at the table. They had really cool prizes every week. Anyhow, my friend and his GF showed up for the last round. As I said, she argued every group decided answer. At the end of that round, we were confident we had every question right. Our mistake was my friend new GF said she'd hand in the sheet. The host, at the end, hands her sheet back, says we'd have won if we didn't change our first answers. We were like, what? He hands the sheet back and a bunch of our answers are crossed out and changed. Everyone at the table looks at my friend's GF. She was like, I thought I was right, and you guys were wrong on most of the answers. So I changed them. The pub never recovered after COVID and shutdown, so the streak was never beat. Year went by and she only got worse. Anyways, this is a petty revenge story, not my friend terrible wife story, so I'm going to fast forward to their wedding gifts. She controlled everything on the wedding. My friend had to argue that she couldn't choose his groomsmen. She literally told him he can pick his best man, but his 6 groomsmen had to be her 3 brothers, 2 cousins, and a college friend of hers. The only time he stood up to her and said no if I could choose my groomsmen wedding off. Anyhow, after that drama and getting the message that I'm a groomsman, I get an email and a voice message from his fiancée. All gift have to be off their wedding registry or a minimum of $300 in cash or gift cards of her selected stores. Most of them were for her dogs, like spas, groomers, or apparently dog hotels. Anyhow, I'm a giant nerd, and 6 months before the wedding I was at a comic book convention. My friend is a big Star Wars fan, and Mark Hamill was there, so my wedding gift was a Riedel helmet signed by Mark Hamill. I told the groomsmen what I bought, and it spread like wildfire. Apparently, my friend's side of the family didn't like her, and a lot of mutual friends hated the $300 minimum limit. I missed the gift opening because I was hungover, but I found out when I woke up that more than 50% of the gifts for the wedding were Star Wars memorabilia and collector's items. My friend's wife apparently had a mental breakdown. Unfortunately, they're still married, but my friend has a cool man cave in the basement full of Star Wars memorabilia. The next one is a malicious compliance story. My coworker told me to share this here. New Reddit account BC Mine is super identifiable, haha. I work on an IT team for a small company, and one of the things we support are marketing campaigns for our company. So to set the cast, let's call my boss Kathy, and there's Peter, the sales manager. Peter has this brilliant idea of targeting a cross-section of 2 audiences for a new marketing campaign. He pitches it in a meeting and everyone gets super excited about this. After the meeting, Peter asks Kathy to set it up. Kathy pushes back immediately, saying she is confident that this new audience is not worth our time, and it is maybe 200 potential customers out of 200K. Now, Peter has a lot of sway in the company and doesn't want to admit he made a mistake about his customers and said, well, I already said we were going to do it, so just do it. So I put in the requirements, and it is worse than Kathy thought. 47 people. Once again, this is escalated to Peter, who insists we just do it, and he complains we are behind schedule on getting this done. Admittedly, it has been a few business days because we did not prioritize this stupid request. I pass along the new audience to our marketing folks who design a campaign, set up a couple of new pages on the website, etc. Now, profitability. Our average transaction sales are pretty small, but a lot of repeat transactions from our customers. But just with the time I've spent on it, there is no way this campaign is paying even my salary, much less everyone else who spent time on it. Kathy doesn't want me to spend another second on it, but Peter, who again we have kept in the loop this entire time, wants to see it in our Power BI reports for the sales team and the C-suite. Normally something this small would be rolled up into an other category, but hey, Peter wants to see it, so I make sure that it is listed. In the updated bar chart, there is a line of text at the bottom, no bar associated with it because after 4 weeks, clicks, 2. Sales, $0. I was not at the meeting after this went live, but I heard Peter went on a long spiel about the growth potential of this new campaign. Kathy and I are confident he's going to put it in his self-review about how innovative he is, assuming he still has a job. The next one is an entitled people story. I had to suffer through a holiday recently with my aunt. I put up with her presence so I could get to know my cousin better, which made me annoyed all over again about something she did a few years ago. My mother killed herself in 2020. As a consequence of this, my sister and I received a large inheritance from our grandfather's estate, mother's father, obviously, enough to buy a house with. My dad sorted out the details of the taxes we had to pay on the inheritance for us. We offered him a third share to take care of himself, but he stated he didn't want to touch the money. The aunt who I went on holiday with, we'll call her Rachel, is an avowed socialist, while the other aunt, who we'll call Tilly, has led a hippie lifestyle for decades. They're both in their 60s and are my dad's sisters. Because of their chosen lifestyles, they don't have much in the way of savings, but they're adults. They chose their lifestyle and they have to live with the consequences of that. A year or two after my mother killed herself, Tilly had some sort of crisis where her rent increased and she wasn't sure how she was going to be able to afford her place accommodation. I'm not sure of all the details. What I do know is Rachel reached out to my dad, not to my sister or I, but my dad, with the suggestion that we use our inheritance, which we inherited from the other side of the family, our mom's dad, to buy Tilly a house, which she would then leave to us in her will. So I would have to wait until my middle age to get access to my own money to buy a house with. This is a person we've barely spoken to in the last 20 years. The audacity of this was absolutely amazing and made the holiday even more annoying, as I feel certain their attempts to get closer to us have partly to do with our money. Rachel's behavior on the holiday was also pretty irritating, asking inappropriately personal questions. Were you close with your mom? Acting childishly upset because we were late to events she wanted to go to, etc. It set my sister and I arguing as well, so we're 100% never going on a holiday with her again. The next one is an entitled parent story. I, 24F, grew up very close to my mother, 53F. We were very close and we did a lot of activities together. She got divorced when I was little and has since remarried with the man I consider one of my role models in life, while still maintaining my connection with my bio dad. Over the years and since moving out of the house, I've noticed some very unsettling tendencies come out from the relationship I have with my mom. I met a man in college and we started dating. Everyone was introduced and things were great. This man is now my fiancé. As time went on and our relationship became more solidified and serious, my mom has started preferring that just myself come home to visit now. She complains about being a hostess and wanting to do whatever she wants to do and not have to wait on everyone by making meals, cleaning up after us, etc. I get confused by this since this started coming up. We were in college and living independently. We don't need to be cared for. I do have a younger brother in the home that still needs that kind of support, food, water, shelter. But I've been out of that phase for years. She had a mental breakdown at my college graduation because she saw my bio dad from a distance and refused to continue into the ceremony because it was all too much for her. My bio dad and my remarried father both get along great. No one has any issues except for her. She makes comments on vacations when it's just us, without my fiancé, about how this might be the last vacation like this. This is how it could have been. And it makes me so upset. I love my fiance very much and want them to be included, but she makes all these remarks about the opposite. It's pushing me away. A week before I got engaged, she asked me privately if I could not post anything when I do get engaged because the thought of me being engaged makes her physically ill. And she asked if I could wait 2 years to get engaged because it would be more convenient for herself since she would be done with her master's program by then. I told her none of that is in my control, and it is a once-in-a-lifetime moment that I would like everyone to share in, so I cannot make that promise to not share it online with everyone. She started crying and listed all the problems she had with family members and socializing and big events. It was all about her. She refuses to get counseling and says God will get me through it. She clearly needs help and sees me as her confidant, but I can't help her when it involves putting my own life on hold. I tried to wait a little bit to tell her I got engaged when it happened, and I told her I had a date set. But as of right now, she's had problems with my bridesmaids I've picked out, the dates I have reserved, and doesn't even want me to try on any dresses with anyone, even if it's just for fun because it's a mother's thing. I want to give my bio dad some time during my wedding as well, walking down the aisle in a dance, but I know mother will throw a very strong opinion on that. At this point, I'm closer with my future mother-in-law and will have her support instead. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.